All right, so your player throws an F1 grenade. In about 10 seconds, they're going to see a puff of smoke, and then we get to watch the magic happen. So we go from dropping an F1 grenade to having a base in a matter of seconds. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rust Admin Academy, where I'm teaching you everything that you need to know about owning and operating a successful Rust server. On this channel, I do plugin reviews and tutorials, plus I want to give you all of those little tips and tricks that are going to help you be more successful when you're building your Rust community. So if you're brand new to the channel, consider subscribing so that you stay up to date on everything that we're working on, and of course you'll get notified as soon as I upload a new video. If you want to help what I'm doing at Rust Admin Academy, head on over to SRTBULL.com. I'm going to put a link to it in the video description down below. Click on the join button in the top right hand corner and become a member today. All right, so today we're talking about the Portable Fort plugin available from gameforfreak.io, link in the description down below. Portable Fort, of course, was written by VisEntities and it is a premium plugin. However, I do have a promo code. Use promo code SRTBULL at checkout to save yourself a couple of bucks. The plugin itself is only $9.99 US, but hey, savings are savings. As the description says, Portable Fort is a plugin that makes it so that your players can throw an F1 grenade, a specific F1 grenade, and instead of having it explode, it's actually going to spawn a base where it lands. There are a ton of really cool features, different things that we can do with this plugin, but I'm going to let you go through this features list once you've actually landed on the doc page at the Game for Freak website. And trust me when I say you're going to want to go through this and decide how this is going to work best for your community. There's a ton of customization available to you. There's one required dependency and one optional dependency. So the required dependency is obviously the copy paste plugin. It's available from Umod. VisEntities also has a version of the copy paste plugin that has been patched for some other plugins that he's working on right now. I'll put links to both of the versions of the copy paste plugin so that you can decide which one works best for you. If you've watched my videos previously, you know that there's a specific instance where we have to use VisEntities patched version of copy paste, but that's not necessarily the case for Portable Forts. And then of course the optional plugin is Better No Escape. If you want to make it so that your players can't deploy one of these bases when they're raid blocked or combat blocked, then obviously you're going to need a plugin that prevents those activities from taking place, and Better No Escape does exactly that. I've already done a video on it. If you want to see more about Better No Escape, you can click on the card in the top right hand corner of your screen right now. There's a couple of different admin commands. You're going to need to know how to access these and what they're going to do for you. I'm going to show you a way that you can do this so that you only need to know these commands one time, and then it's going to be made so much easier for you. Don't worry, we're going to get into that in just a minute. Something I want to show you right off the doc page is what the default configuration file is going to look like when you download this for your community. And just to be clear, it's not what you're seeing on my screen right now. So by default, the plugin is set up so that you can have one grenade with multiple different options of potential bases that might spawn as a result. This configuration example shows one grenade, one skin grenade, and one base option that it's going to spawn. But if you download this plugin for your community right now, what you're going to see is one F1 grenade with a specific skin and multiple different options of bases that might potentially spawn as a result of the use of that grenade. The rest of the configuration file basically goes over all of the details about the things that you can change in the configuration file, but instead of going through this point by point, I'm going to actually show you what I've done in my own configuration file in preparation for this video. But before I do that, I want to show you how this plugin actually functions and what I've done on my particular server in order to make this easily accessible to the players on my server. So first things first, we have to get ourselves one of those grenades that are defined in the configuration file, which you haven't actually seen yet. So let's head back over to the documentation page. Let's just grab this command right here to our clipboard, go back in game and open up our F1 console, and let's just pause to that command that we copied from the doc page. Now we need to make some changes here. So first things first, we have to change which player we're going to be giving this item to. And we can just use part of a person's name. We can use their Steam 64 ID, pretty much whatever you want, as long as it's an identifier for the player that you want to give this item to. The next thing we have to change is which type of grenade you want to give give to that player. So by default, one of the options is Portafort with dashes in between each word. Looks something like this. And then the last thing that we need to change is how many of these grenades do we want to give to that specific player. I'm going to put in 5. If you don't put anything there, it's obviously just going to give them 1. However, in my specific scenario, I've already changed all of the different types of grenades that I have accessible in the configuration file. So instead of using Portafort as the name of the grenade, I'm going to do Fort 1 and I'm going to give myself 5 of those grenades. All right, so it says in chat, Fort 1 grenade giving to Living Dead Girl, which is me. And now I have 5 of these grenades in my inventory and I can toss these out and they're going to deploy a base. So it looks a little bit something like this. So I'm going to toss the grenade. You're going to see a puff of smoke and then it's going to spawn a base. It takes about 10 seconds. And there you go. The base has spawned. So now hopefully you're wondering, where did that base come from? Who designed it? Where's the file that backs it up? Well, of course, these are copy-paste files, which is why the copy-paste plugin is a dependency for this plugin to actually function. So that base that you just saw there was a base that I just quickly threw together, and I called that base PF001, and you'll see why that's important in just a minute. However, I also wanted to show you that you can import bases directly from the Fortify workshop, and I've done a couple of videos and definitely spent an extensive amount of time explaining how to use the Fortify plugin to import bases into our servers. And just to give you an example of that, I'll show you exactly what that looks like in game. So now this right here isn't a base that I created myself. I grabbed this directly from the Steam Fortify workshop and imported it into my server, attached it to a grenade, bada boom, bada bing, here we go. Now we have a base that we didn't actually have to put any work into in order to get it into our server. So I was about to do you a disservice by not showing you what the default configuration file is actually going to look like when you download this for your community. So I actually went through, deleted my heavily modified configuration file for Portafort and allowed the plugin to generate me a brand new config. So obviously just go through here and do what makes sense for your community. Minimum water depth to block placement. Obviously you don't want these bases to be thrown in the water, so you can control how deep the water is actually allowed to be before it's going to allow one of these bases to be deployed there. Do we want to refund the grenade that was thrown if the player is combat blocked or raid blocked? We can set these true or false. By default, these are both set to false. So this next section is where we start dealing with the actual grenades themselves. And I wanted to show you this part by default so that you understood exactly what I did in my modified version of the configuration file, so you can maybe understand why I did what I did. So as you can see here, we've got a grenade with a grenade skin, which by the way, hopefully by the time you see this video, that skin will have changed because this one is actually an official skin. And as many of you already know, we have to be using workshop skins for these types of scenarios where we're giving a player something that is going to have a specific skin on it. Now we've got the custom grenade name. Now, as you saw, I changed mine on my configuration file, so that's why I had to change the name when I was giving myself that grenade. And then we get into the different bases that could potentially spawn after a player throws that grenade. So as you can see here, we've got this one grenade right here, and then we've got this base, and this furnace base right here. So the plugin is automatically going to select one of those 3 bases and spawn that base. So let's just have a look at one of these base files that could possibly be spawned. So here's the name of it. Set the building owner to the thrower of the grenade. By default, this is set to true. It gives ownership to the player that threw the grenade of all of the pieces that made up that base. All right, this force building grade section, this is really important. So you can build all of your copy paste files in twig form if you want to. And then the plugin will decide based on what you do on the configuration file, at what level is that base going to be finalized at. So if you keep it at none, it's going to spawn after the player throws the grenade at whatever level it is that you built it at. So if you built it at twig, it's going to spawn at twig. If you built it at stone, it's going to spawn at stone. We've also got a height offset, which is incredibly important that you go through and sort out which height offset is going to make sense for each of the individual bases that you're adding to a grenade. Some bases work at 0 height offset, some need an offset of 2. These ones here, by default, it's set at 2.3, 2.8, 1.8. These are all too high. As I've tested most of these, there aren't a lot of applications where this works well. So you're going to want to adjust your height offset for each one of your copy paste files. Build directly to final grade. So do we want to skip the twig animation that you saw at the beginning of the video and just have the plugin go directly to whatever level it is that it's going to be as its final result. And then we've got the copy paste functionality that the portable fort plugin is going to utilize from the copy paste plugin. If we go have a look at the documentation page for copy paste at umod.org, you can see all of the different variables that we can use at this location in the portable fort configuration file. So we can add more of these variables in here, or if we just want the copy paste plugin to just plop it and not actually care about anything else, we can remove those variables altogether. While I was testing and exploring this plugin, I did find it useful to have the ability to turn stability on or off. And in many of the cases, the deployables, I could take them or leave them, but there is one specific case where I did want the deployables to actually be pasted when that grenade was thrown. So I was happy to know that that functionality was there, and I could make the decision based off of which copy paste file was going to be used for that grenade. All right, so that's all well and good. That's the default configuration file, but what the hell did I do, right? Okay, so now we're looking at my actual portable fort configuration file, and I just want to show you a couple of really quick differences that I made to make it work for the server that I ended up putting this plugin on. So we've still got the specific grenade skin. Here's the custom fort name. So if I were giving this grenade to a player, I wouldn't say pf.give the player's name and then port a fort anymore. I would say fort1. And if I did do that, give that grenade to a player, which base is going to be spawned, and it's actually PF001. Now you know why I said that was important earlier. So now what I've done is I've made it so that there isn't an option for which base might actually be deployed if a grenade is thrown. So as you can see here, I've got this grenade, and then the next line down, I've got a different grenade with a different copy paste file. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we've got another grenade with another copy paste file. And I've done this, I think, 9 times in this particular case. So I've got 9 different grenades, I think, and 9 different copy paste files associated with each one of those grenades. So, okay, you're probably like, okay, great. Now we have a bunch of grenades and we have a bunch of copy paste files and all of those are attached together. Great, the plugin is working. Now, how do we get those grenades into our players' hands? Well, there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. We of course can add this to our loot table as long as we're using some sort of a loot controller like Better Loot or Alpha Loot or something of the sort. Something that is going to allow you to add a specific item into your loot table with a specific skin. It's the skin that's absolutely imperative. If we make a mistake here and we add a grenade with the wrong skin or no skin at all, and the player thinks they're getting a portable fort base, they're actually just going to end up with an exploding F1 grenade. Go figure. So what I did in my particular case is I wanted to add each one of these grenades into a kit that I designed so that the player can just do /kit in chat and they would be able to select from a list of grenades that I've created into individual kits. So if we go in here and have a look, we can click on Fort 3 and it's going to tell us a little bit about the base that's going to spawn if we toss this grenade. So let's do that now. Let's redeem this kit. So it's that yellow grenade right there. Let's toss this yellow grenade like that. And there we go, we have our base. So just to give you an idea of what happened here, obviously the plugin took care of spawning the base, but let's go in, let's do a /prod. This has nothing to do with portable forts, but let's do /prod and it's going to tell us what we can find out about this one panel. So as you can see, the owner, me, has been assigned. So even though I didn't physically build this base, the plugin gave my player character the ownership of the building. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm authorized on the TC though. I would have to go find the TC if I didn't know where it was and actually physically authorize myself on this TC. So you can add these specific grenades to your loot table. You could create kits. You could put them in your shop. You can do, there's any number of things that you could do to get these grenades into your actual player's hands. You could create a starter base and give it as a part of your auto kit so that every player that joins your server, they're automatically given one of these grenades if that works best for you. If you want to get into customizing vending machines at the outpost, you could sell these grenades there. There is a long list of ways that we could utilize this plugin in a real world application. My recommendation though is be smart about it. Don't build ridiculously sized bases that are going to take up to 5 minutes for the plugin to actually spawn them in place. A, it's hard on resources. 2, it's just going to be annoying for your players. Just don't do it. You want to make good use of this plugin and not overdo it, because this is absolutely overdoing it. This is not how this plugin is meant to be used. You've got gates that are halfway into the ground. As you can see, it spawned onto the road. You don't want any of this stuff. So you might be wondering what happens if a player tries to throw one of these grenades into a location where it can't actually spawn the base that's assigned to it. So let's throw this in the middle of this lagoon right here. And as you're going to see, it's going to fail to spawn, but it's also going to give the grenade back to the player, which is absolutely fantastic. Tells you directly in chat there what went wrong and why that's not going to work. Another thing that we want to make sure of is that we can't actually throw one of these grenades inside of a monument and have somebody end up with a base directly at a monument. Same situation is going to happen. It's going to return the grenade to the player and obviously not actually spawn that base. If you're using Better No Escape, which I am on this server, and a player is raid blocked or combat blocked, it's going to do the same warning. But most importantly, it's going to return the grenade back to the player. So it's not like they're wasting it. So by the time you guys see this video on Friday, hopefully there will have been an update. So the official skins that were used in the default configuration file, those will hopefully have been changed by then. It's also been suggested that when the player is actually holding a portable fort grenade in their hand right before they're about to deploy it, there will hopefully be some sort of a warning on the screen, whether that's in the chat or if it's over in the actual notification center. I'm not sure how that's going to actually end up, but your players should be notified that they're holding a portable fort grenade and not just a regular F1 grenade. There was also some talk about having some extra commands added to the plugin so that if you decided to do what I did to my configuration file, you'll be able to do it with actual commands. So instead of manually changing the configuration file like I did, and of course I screwed it up about 15 times before I got it right, VisEntities talked about, and I don't know if this is a guarantee or not, but he talked about adding the commands so that the admin or moderator was able to just run a command and it would add a new grenade to the configuration file, maybe with a default portable fort. I'm not sure how that's going to set up. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm expecting it to be very smooth if he decides to go down that road. VisEntities is incredibly receptive to taking feedback, and he's definitely willing to look at options or features of plugins. So if you can think of something that you'd like to see in one of his existing plugins, feel free to let him know or let me know and I'll send the message along. So that is Portable Forts from the Game for Freak website. Don't forget to use my promo code SRTBULL to save yourself a couple of bucks. I know that this is only a $10 plugin, but I mean, seriously, a discount is basically free money, so take it. I made reference to a couple of different videos and previous things that I've shown or explained in the past, and hopefully I will have put those cards in the appropriate places. But for now, because I did mention Better No Escape directly in this video, I want you to know how that works and how you might make that work for your community. So make sure you click on the video on the left-hand side of your screen right now so you can learn everything that there is to know about Better No Escape and why I'm suggesting that everyone switches to it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.